Worth, Texas. The state continues their case in the trial of former officer Aaron Dean. Now, this morning, the interview conducted with Attatiana Jefferson's nephew was admitted into evidence, and this afternoon, we saw body camera footage taken by the defendant. All right, joining us now with the debrief of this case is Court TV crime and justice correspondent Matt Johnson. Matt?
Yeah, hey Michael, nice to see you. There is a lot of big moments, in case you missed any of it right here on Court TV, that happened today, including a critical piece of evidence now before the jury. Body cam video from the defendant Aaron Dean was introduced by his former partner, who took the stand today. Officer Carol Darch with the Fort Worth Police Department walking the jury through this graphic body cam video, tough to watch at times. She testified that they ordered Attatiana Jefferson to put her hands up, but did not identify themselves as officers when they responded to the home.
What about announcing, say, Fort Worth Police or knocking on the front or side door? Did you guys do that?
No, ma'am. We didn't, because if there's a burglar still in the building, you don't want them to know that you're there so that they can escape.
Officer Darch also telling the jury she and the defendant did not follow proper police protocol because they did not secure the home, rather. And when the shooting happened, she did not see a gun.
Did you ever see Attatiana's gun?
No, ma'am. I saw her face.
Is that burned in your memory?
Yes, ma'am.
Also key, under cross, this officer explained that she and Dean would have been in danger if there had been a gun, if she saw it, and if a laser was ever pointed at them.
If a weapon were pointed at the direction of your partner that night, that weapon, if it had a green laser on it, a weapon with a green laser pointed at your partner's chest, it would be pointed at your back as well if he were to move out of the way, correct?
Yes, sir.
Now, another key moment was the conflicting statements by Attatiana's nephew, Zion Carr. On Monday, yesterday, the 11-year-old eyewitness told the jury that his Aunt Tay did not raise her arm, did not point her gun, but in his 2019 interrogation video played to the jury, you can see it right there, that tells a different story. Then 8-year-old Zion told police that his aunt did point a gun. Two very key moments in this trial and key evidence where the jury just has one question to answer. Was the deadly police shooting justifiable, Michael?
Yeah, big day today out there in Fort Worth, Texas. Matt Johnson, thank you so much for that report. Let me return to my guest, Jack Rice, Josh Schiffer. Josh, I'll start with you. That 8-year-old impeached strongly by the defense. Where does a jury go with that? You got the kid doing extremely well, telling one story in court, and you have him as an 8-year-old 3 years ago telling a different story.
I think back in the jury room, the jurors are going to rely on people that had experience with 8-year-olds and raising kids, because really anybody that spent a lot of time with kids understands how much vagarity there is in their daily life and their development. Kids develop at different speeds as well, and their relationship with truth and falsity and memory and time, there's a reason they're children. They're not reliable. It's still part of this overall evidence, though, and the absence of pointing the gun is something that really you can hone in on, because he really, unfortunately, was one of the only primary sources of evidence.
Yeah, it's unfortunate that an 8-year-old is like really the primary source, the primary eyewitness.
What a great kid. You know, his work on the stand yesterday,
yeah.
I got plenty of adults that couldn't
have done that well.
Yeah,
no question about
that
it.
young man, good kid.
Yeah. Now, Jack, the officer, crossing the thin blue line on some level. Going into court, we've seen many times where officers won't make the statements or the testimony that we saw this young officer make. Your thoughts on that and her testimony as a whole?
I think if we look at this case and if we start looking at culture across the country, we're starting to see a shift, aren't we?
It's a positive.
Yeah, and it really is a positive in the sense that there's a willingness of officers to say, I'm going to tell you what actually happened. I'm going to tell you the truth, what I saw, what I perceived to be the truth. I think there was this concept for a very long time that thou shalt not speak ill of fellow partners, of other police officers.
Absolutely.
And the idea is that you would let people do terrible things because you were a police officer and somehow it was justified. Now we're starting to see that shift. So I think this is positive, not just for this case. It's positive nationwide for all those people who may have faced some really terrible things happening to them by police officers in the country. And those things do happen.
Absolutely. Now, on cross, she did admit that if there was this laser, and we talked about the fact that there might have been a laser, at least Aaron Dean, the defendant, said that he felt a laser or saw a laser pointing at him. But here's my question. You know, the issue is, and we talked about this earlier, that these cops, by perhaps not following protocol, created a dangerous situation, put them in a situation where this gun could have been pointed at them and the laser could have been pointed at them. How does the state get this jury to focus in on the sort of acts of the officers creating the situation rather than that? Because if you just go to the situation of the gun or perhaps a laser pointing at the cop, then you got a justified shoot.
Yeah, and it really is going to depend which perspective the jury decides they want to lean into more. The perspective of the innocent home resident who has an outside disturbance and uses their fundamental American provided Second Amendment right to protect their house and family. That's one perspective that's super valid. A lot of people are going to support that. On the other hand, you've got law enforcement, dangerous job, neighborhood that is in transition, and you can load that term all you want, who's appearing because of a non-emergency dispatch to an open structure. See how we can slice this apart 1,000 ways. But if you're any officer and a laser crosses your body, that's aggravated assault. All day. You're going to defend yourself, and it's a justified shooting, even if you were mistaken.
How about this? You're a prosecutor, you start your closing like this. I'm going to give you 4 words, ladies and gentlemen. Police, drop the gun. That's how you start this. This is what police officers are supposed to do. This is what they're trained to do. This is what they should be doing. They should always do this, and there's a reason they should do this. And you know what happens if they don't? And then you're off to the races after that. They failed.
That's whataboutism, and I gotta push back on my good friend. I don't like that, because certainly you can always critique from back here and say, oh, it should have been done better. No, these are real life situations. Officers make some of the most complex decisions instantaneously because of their training, which they always need more of, and is always the #1 attack of the defense. That the officers are undertrained or didn't follow their training, and that's why a bad thing happened. Unfortunately, people do their best, and bad things happen, and I love civil rights cases. I'm a big critic of our police system and nation. This case worries me because I see so many ways the officer was doing absolutely the right thing, maybe not perfectly, but should not be held criminally responsible.
Yeah, but what about the person on the inside who did absolutely nothing wrong? And that has enormous.
And I do want to say, okay, you say civil court might be the answer, and I want to say this for the record. I think police have a very difficult job. I think we should really be careful when we decide to take them to criminal court. I think this might be one of those cases where it makes sense to let a jury decide if they did the right thing, because I think there were enough mistakes made. And then you look back at the totality of the circumstances. There are people who say, this represents the after effects of the over-militarization of black or transitioning neighborhoods, all that. But anyway, guys, I'm sorry.
That's the goal.
Yeah, I got to take a break. I wish we had all that.